And we recently had an event where we raised close to $2,800 for the REACH organization. We have monthly meetings at the Eco Evolution, and anybody can come and, just it's a community thing. So we're our mission statement. So we are Norwalk Actions for Reproductive Justice, grassroots collective, providing education, support, actions, and event planning to support inclusive, gender-affirming reproductive health care for all. So again, some of the things that we've done last summer, we were at the Arts Festival, and that was wonderful. There was a lot of, I think there was a lot of pent up feeling at that, and people were able to kind of artistically express themselves. Again, we've done letter writing and phone banking and the rest. Most recently, we had this basketball event at the Blind Rhino. And we also have Melissa, my co-founder, has set up a website and communications. And we have a pretty substantial following. Every time we have an event, we get a jump in followers, and we currently have an email reach of over 200 people, but as I said, it's growing with every event that we have. And so what's coming in the future? More of the same activism and involvement in community. And Ashley can speak to something that we have coming up very soon in April on the 20th, I believe. We have an information session. So Ashley, you want to take that?
Sure. Yeah, we would love for anyone to come and join us next Thursday at Eco Evolution at 7 o'clock. We have Cadence Pentheny from the Triangle Community Center coming to present LGBTQ+ 101 training with a reproductive justice lens to really address the intersection of reproductive rights and the LGBTQ community. Cadence does an excellent job. I did their training 2 years ago before I started volunteering, and we're really excited that they are going to come to ECO next week. It's a free event, though we will be taking donations for Triangle Community Center.
So really, the question is for the committee is there a place for NARJ to support the commission's policies and actions? What can we do? And if so, what's the protocol for collaborating?
I think to jump in here with Barb, one thing that we had been talking about was potentially for next year, like International Women's Day on March 8th, if we might be able to work together, because we don't want to oversaturate the city with different events. We'd love to join forces to put something together for that, in addition to supporting what the commission is doing and collaborating.
Yeah, so I can chime in. I mean, in terms of your question, Barb, about how we might collaborate. I mean, I think it's, yeah, I think I agree with you, Ashley, that, it would be good to be strategic and not oversaturate or have multiple events that end up being potentially, in competition with each other. Certainly not that. So, I mean, we just at our last meeting, or possibly the meeting before that, formed a community outreach and civic engagement committee on the commission. And so, yeah, I guess it's 2 months now, so because we've had 2 meetings. And we're really sort of trying to take on a number of different civic engagement and community outreach type, and it's still kind of forming. And so I think, one next step might be for those of us on that committee to meet with you at a separate time to kind of brainstorm and look at what you've just described about sort of what's coming up, and think about how we might be able to, what are some of those opportunities for collaboration, and then that committee could bring those recommendations, proposed ideas back to the full commission. Um, and see if there's approval / consensus. But yeah, we've talked even so we were talking about trying to do something this year for International Women's Day, and just, weren't able to really pull anything together. So we have talked about a couple of different ideas for next year. And so it would be great to think about to collaborate with you all and possibly some other organizations, and see what we could do together,
That all sounds great. I also wanted to really quickly mention our May meeting is going to be like a storytelling event to sort of get our feet under us for public speaking and sharing our own stories and our own voices. And that will also be the third Thursday of the month at EcoEvolution. So we have some great stuff lined up already for the next couple months. We also didn't quite get on top of International Women's Day in time ourselves this year. We were busy with our basketball night planning.
So next steps would be for you all to kind of see how we fit and how possibly we can help in the future.
Yeah, I mean, what I would suggest, and I welcome other commissioners, please chime in, but so there are currently 4 members of the Community Outreach and Civic Engagement Committee: myself, Yvonne, Jasmine, and Melody. Melody's not here this evening. We don't currently have a standing meeting date and time, just because our schedules are not aligning very well, but we could just reach out to you, maybe Barb, and see when you and Melissa and Ashley are available, or who would like to meet with us. We meet remotely, and set up a time to just kind of have a brainstorming together to look at kind of what's coming up, what are also in terms of events, but also advocacy opportunities, or where, if you're having something, we could support that. And we're other ways where we could, if we're doing something, we're trying to think of ways to really get into the community, to talk more about both the commission, but also to raise community awareness more broadly about ways to get civically involved, including on boards and commissions, but also talking about, getting into the high schools to talk about voter education. And I think that latter in particular, if we were to go into the high school, maybe that would be an opportunity for you all, someone from NARJ to join us.
Yeah, that in particular, I would really personally love to get more youth involved, just to kind of carry forward all of this, and get people involved at an earlier age, make sure that they're voting, make sure that they understand the issues.
Yes, absolutely. We will follow up, I think, with an email to invite you to one of our meetings, and perhaps Ashley could also join that committee, because that way we will have direct information and contact. So for your consideration.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. I much appreciate your time.
I don't know if anyone has any other questions for Barb and Ashley in general. Just want to open up the space for that.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I applaud the work that you, Barb, have done. Ashley and Melissa, it's really incredible. I know it's very difficult to engage in a community with a new organization, and I just want to say thank you for all the work that you've done, and I want to encourage the other committee members to try to join one of the April events that they're running.
Thank you.
And a few of us were at the basketball, and it was really fun. I'm glad to hear you raised some money for Reach. That's wonderful.
Good.
Thank you to those of you who came out. We really appreciated it. The total was $2,884. for the Reach Fund.
That's great.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I have to say, your website has an excellent calendar, so it's very easy to find out what you have going on.
Thank you. And we work really hard. Melissa does quite a phenomenal job on our monthly newsletter. So if you're not signed up for it, please sign up. And that always has everything that we have upcoming, like months in advance, and action items. And if there's ever an action item that the commission has, we can certainly include that in our newsletter. Any of the bills that need testimony, we're happy to include that to encourage more folks to submit those.
That's great. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. I very much appreciate. Nobody else has any other questions? And okay, well, I hope you all have a wonderful evening.
Thanks.
You too. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wonderful. So before we move on, I believe so. Michelle, was there a public comment that or no?
The person's no longer there. We actually, by accident, I apologize to her, but we weren't publicly. So we're recording everything, and the whole meeting will go onto YouTube to be viewed. But we were in practice session the first few minutes, so we missed that opportunity. I told her she could come back and give public comment, but I don't see her right now, so I think we can move forward.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the next item is still under new business, is the advocacy efforts to support legislation this session. And the one area where I think we have updates here is on the child marriage bill. So since our last meeting, we drafted and submitted written testimony in support of the passage of HB 6569, the child marriage bill. And this was done, I had reached out to Representative Johnson to get guidance and her thoughts on how best to navigate this, which we talked about at our last meeting. And so we submitted written testimony. We also reached out to all members of the Judiciary Committee to encourage the leadership to make sure that it got voted out of committee, and to encourage the other members to support the bill. And then lastly, I did take the written testimony and adapted it for a letter to an opinion essay, which was published in the Norwalk Hour. And that was on behalf, I got permission from the city to put it under my name as a member of the commission. So I think that was great too, to get some visibility for us. And so apparently it was voted out of committee, but there are, Dominique Johnson did say that there are some challenges to getting it, moving it forward. So she has made herself available to meet with me tomorrow morning. I believe Michelle's going to join us, and if anybody else is interested, to just talk a little bit about what some of the challenges are, so we can come up with an advocacy strategy besides with how can we best support this. So that's the update on that. I know, I don't know if anybody else had a chance to submit testimony, but if you did, thank you. Or if there are any questions.
Claudia, just because I think some people weren't on the meeting last time, and because Ashley's new, do you mind just sharing some of the highlights about why the bill is so important?
Yeah, sure. So in a nutshell, the current legislation does set the age of child marriage in the state of Connecticut at 18, but there are exceptions that are also existing within the law, which allow children 16 and 17 to get married with parental permission, or with a written request. That's not the right terminology, but I don't have it in front of me. And so really what this bill is saying is that it's setting the age for a child to be eligible to marry would be 18 with no exceptions. And that is the same as the states around us. Massachusetts, New York, and Rhode Island have all in the last few years passed similar legislation. And so that's also really important. And I went back and looked at a lot of some of the testimony that was given at the hearing, and a number of people did talk about that the last thing you want is to be a state where people are coming in from other states to get married in your state and have this like child marriage tourism. But it's also, you know, as I wrote in the written testimony, it is, you know, it is a gender equality issue because the vast majority of children who are married are girls. You know, there are incredible implications in terms of their life choices, their future, their education, their earning potential, and the prevalence of both intimate partner violence as well as mental health issues among children who are married as children. So a whole range of issues, and so yeah, it's incredibly important for obvious reasons. But so, and we had at our last meeting for Ashley and anyone else who wasn't here did agree that we wanted to take action on this and take this up as an advocacy issue. So any comments or questions? All right, so I will, after the meeting tomorrow with Representative Johnson, I can, if there's anything urgent that needs to happen between now and our next meeting, which sadly, I don't think there will be anything moving that quickly, but if there is, I can let everyone know. Otherwise, I'll bring an update to our next meeting, or reach out by email if you. Okay, all right, thanks. All right, so item C under new business is community outreach and civic engagement work. So this is not really the committee report, I guess, but four specific things. So the first one is the girls softball field, and this was brought up to us last year by Sue Marquez, I think, and Christina, you worked on this issue a bit. I'm going to turn it over to you, Christina, if I may.
Sure.
Speak to this.
Excuse me. Yes. So actually, it was brought up to us by, I believe, by a woman by the name of Sue, as well as a gentleman, a dad who had some of the same concerns. So at that time, Shannon and I both met with Ken Hughes. We reported back to this group that Ken had shared with us the schedule, the way that the fields are managed and scheduled, and Shannon, and we brought it to this group because we didn't feel that at that time there was anything else that could be done, that there was as much parity as we could get given the number of softball fields versus the number of multi-purpose fields as well. So Shannon and I can revisit it with Ken, but it seemed to come up and then be resolved once we met with Ken, but that doesn't mean we can't and shouldn't review it again, because I know the softball fields at Brian McMahon have recently been redone. So just checking in to make sure the maintenance of those fields is continuing, as well as some of the other fields that are softball fields in town. So unless anybody else is interested, Shannon and I actually were trying to meet this week. We didn't get a chance to meet prior to this, and I know she's not on the call tonight, and I got an email from her that she can't meet tomorrow. So we will definitely make sure we meet prior to the next meeting. In the way of protocol, Michelle and Claudia, I'm assuming that we don't do any follow-up individually with the individual that raised it through the email yet. I imagine we would kind of do our due diligence again, and then come back to this group, correct?
Yeah, I was just going to propose, if you want me to coordinate a meeting with Ken to get an update from the city about it, I'm happy to do that. And then I think once you guys get more information, or we gather more information, you're welcome to update the person that reached out to you. But I can help coordinate a meeting if you'd like with Parks.
That'd be great. And I don't know if anybody else on the group wants to join the call. I'm assuming Shannon will continue the course of the conversation. And if anybody else wants to join us, please let us know. Let Michelle know. And thank you, Michelle. That would be great if you could coordinate that.
No problem.
Thanks, Christina. And I did just send a very brief note to Sue when she wrote, just acknowledging receipt of her email. So,
Thank you.
okay. Anything else on that? All right. Thanks, Christina and Michelle. Collaboration with Stepping Stones Museum for Children. So I mentioned this at our last meeting on behalf of Melody, who wasn't there at that meeting. She's also not here this evening, but she had sent an email with some notes and asked me to give an update. So I'm going to try not to read them all, but just so I don't miss anything. I mean, in the overarching idea, as you may have remembered, it was that she met with Stepping Stones, with their program folks, and to explore a partnership. And what they're talking about is having a monthly event with children, which would fit into their programming at the museum. And they would feature a book or a story of a woman on a monthly basis and pair it with a craft activity. And so the idea is to kind of, educate children about women who have done some of the many women who've done remarkable things. So let's see. Conduct monthly 1-hour event in which children, and they would target ages 4 to 7, would learn about women's contributions by enjoying storytelling and a story associated craft, spotlighting a different book theme each month. For example, Jane Goodall, a scientist and conservationist. The museum's content and program director could develop the craft once the commission decides on which book will be read in any given month. The resources would be basically covered by Stepping Stones in terms of the space, the craft supplies, their staff and volunteer time, but they do want a member of the commission present, and also just noting that sounds like they expect the commission to come up with the books. And the dates would be, they're proposing, well, they say they have availability the third Sunday of every month from 10 to 11, beginning Sunday, April 16th. This weekend. We had some back and forth by email, and then we did have the, excuse me, the community outreach and civic engagement, the longest title for a committee, but, meeting last Friday, and just Yvonne and I were available because neither nor Melody could come, and we talked a little bit about I had raised to Melody just some questions, which I can just share since I raised them to her. One was about starting on April 16th. The other is really committing the commission to having one person be there every month. And I honestly didn't see that we would be responsible for selecting the books until just now. And also kind of as an overarching matter, really, since we have so many ideas about what we want to be doing and what we really feel aligns with our mission, that we just to think about, while the idea is wonderful, are we going to reach the at Stepping Stones, knowing that many people from outside Norwalk come and visit the museum? Is that the right kind of venue for really reaching the people that we seek to reach and that would align with our mission? So those were some of the questions I had flagged in my email back to Melody, and she didn't have a reply. But so anyway, that's a bit more detail than I had last month. So I just would open it up for any comments, questions, thoughts.
I would love to help pick books if it is something we do. I have quite a collection of diverse and inclusive children's picture books, and I've read a lot. So I would be happy to help with selecting books if it is something we go forward with.
Thank you.
Is this something that we really has to happen every month? Can it be quarterly, or is it kind of like this is the option if you guys want every month or like no months?
Good question, Jasmine. I don't have the answer to that. I think it's a good question. Also, I would add that I had suggested that to Melody, another idea would be to take if we do it, take whatever whatever sorry, recovering from various things, but whatever we do at Stepping Stones, could we pair it and replicate it like at the Norwalk Public Library or somewhere else within Norwalk, so that we're taking the same level of effort, but also reaching a different community at the same time. So she had tried to reach someone from the Norwalk Public Library and wasn't able to connect with them, but that would be another way to sort of leverage the opportunity, but broaden it out a bit.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
your question is a good one. Sorry, Sarah, go ahead.
And I was going to say the same thing that you just said, Jasmine, that's a good question, just based on the potential needs of the committee to use our time as committee members for the new committees that we have, the research committee, the outreach committee, the political engagement committee. So if we do every month, that seems a little bit beyond our bandwidth potentially. And Claudia, to your point about our mission, I do have the same type of wonderings. Like when you said the Norwalk Library, that feels much more accessible to A, the Norwalk community, and B, Stepping Stones might be prohibitive for a lot of families in Norwalk because of the costs. And so it feels like both on the doing it less often aspect and then accessibility, often the Norwalk Public Library might be a good option because they already have weekly story times or monthly story times.
And just to add an idea, based on what Jasmine and Sarah said, and based on the commission's mission, maybe if you all decide to do this activity at the Norwalk Library, maybe you choose 4 months where those months are specific to the commission's mission, like Pride Month or Juneteenth. I mean, those both fall in June, so those are bad examples, but examples like that correspond to the mission.
Good idea.
I just want to echo what Sarah had mentioned, and just being, mindful of our time and our commitment, but also the reach and scope of serving the Norwalk community and in a more inclusive way, potentially. Maybe we can do something. I know Stepping Stones usually has a lot of events that are that are geared towards, I know they have a big one around early childhood programs, like a already organized large scale event. So maybe we could have a presence at Stepping Stone at those events, but an ongoing continual presence at something, even if it's 4 times a year at the library.
Yeah, I think you guys are fine with your connections at the library. I did just jump off the board there. So if you need any of my thoughts on that, please let me know. Also, I'd always be happy to volunteer to help out with any sort of book reading.
Any other, those are, Yvonne, did you?
No, I just was going to say, Claudia, that it seems like our next step is go back to Stepping Stones and asking them whether we could do this reading quarterly, and then follow up with Norwalk Library to see what can be done with them.
Great, thanks. So I can summarize, I've taken notes and I can share that with Melody. I'm not sure when she'll be able to access the minutes or the recording from this meeting. And I know she wants to get back to them since they're waiting to see if we're going to start this on the 16th. So I think there were some great ideas here. Thank you very much for those. And I do think, whether Sharon, you could help make a connection to the library, or I think that would be helpful, because it didn't sound like Melody got a lot of traction with whoever she was trying to connect with at the library. So I think we Michelle, that would be really helpful.
Yep, I'll send an email, no problem, connecting.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, anything else on that? Okay, great, thank you. All right. Meeting with Jennifer Barahona, the CEO of Norwalk Act. Turn it over to Yvonne.
Okay, I'll relieve you from talking for a little bit, Claudia. So we had the opportunity to, I had the opportunity to speak with Jennifer Barahona from Norwalk Acts, and this has to do with one of our initiatives. As it happens, there are a lot of ideas that are as well overlapping with the ideas that we have. So we are looking to continue our conversation with Norwalk Acts to see where we can collaborate. So the initiative that specifically we are going to be speaking about is a civic engagement forum. So our committee had the initiative of creating a civic engagement forum probably in September, getting a good location for it and inviting people in the community and speakers, of course, having a panel with representatives and you know, the women of the League of Women Voters and a few of our local representatives as well, to speak to the community about the importance of voting and also running for committees and commissions within the town. So when I met with Jennifer Barahona, they have similar initiative. So we will be following up to see how we can collaborate. Although our audiences may be a little bit different, there could be a possibility that we can collaborate in their event and then determine whether having a second event for us could be a possibility to reach other audiences as well. So this committee is following up with her. We are going to meet and have a conversation and see how we can work together on that initiative. The other things that we discussed at the committee level were hopefully doing some outreach to engage high school students in learning about the commission, what we do, and also engage them into some sort of activity that leads to also learning about voting and running for office. We thought high school students were a great audience because, you know, they are turning of age, they will be able to vote soon. So we want to engage them really early and learn about the opportunities that are in the town. So that's something that we are following up with. Hopefully, if we can arrange everything well, we could work with the students and then lead into our bigger event with their participation as well. So when we were thinking about presenting the commission to different areas like Norwalk Acts and so on, we thought that, you know, one of the things that our committee wants to do is to create a short presentation to introduce the commission. So Claudia will be working on that and probably reaching out to some of the materials that you have already created, like the presentation that Christina and Sharon gave last time, because a lot of the materials you have we can use. Create flyers and materials that inform the community of what the commission is doing and what our goals are. Another idea that came up was also to do a presentation at the Norwalk Community Providers Call, which has a number of nonprofits showing up monthly to speak about what they are doing. So introducing the commission would be an effective thing to do there as well. So we have a lot of initiatives that we are aligning so that we can go out in the community and present the commission and the committee to engage people at different levels.
Thanks, Yvonne. Any questions or comments about any of the items Yvonne shared? Okay. Great. So actually, I think Yvonne, you sort of took us into the committee reports, which is awesome. So I'll turn it over to Sarah then for the research committee.
Great, thank you. So we wanted to focus today on for Ashley, who is just joining us, we have been wanting to gauge from the community what people think our priorities should be as a committee. And so we originally were thinking of doing a formal survey and focus groups, and there's been a lot of conversation with the city because you kind of mentioned saturation in the community. little bit of survey fatigue. And there's sort of like three main updates we wanted to share with everyone and have a discussion about what the larger committee thinks we should do. So I'm gonna actually start with, I'll give you an overview and then we'll start with Claudia, but I can't remember what month it was because I was on maternity leave, but we had someone from Arlington, Virginia come speak to the commission about their own efforts figuring out their priorities. And one of the things they did in their locality was a toothpick survey, which Claudia will explain in a second, which when we spoke as a research committee, it felt more feasible given our logistical considerations and wanting to get this going because it's been a while now since we've tried to figure out what our priorities are. And based on that, we think that we should be conducting this toothpick survey in community events. And so some of them have been mentioned today as part of other efforts of the commission. But we've looked into the Sona Arts Fest, the Pride Festival, which is happening at Vets Park this year. It's had different names before, but Norwalk Night Out, which has been in conjunction with the police department. I think it's called like Safe Night Out or something now. And then obviously wanting everyone to speak to other ideas they might have. And Yvonne's going to talk about that and the current list that we have in case people have things to add to it. And then after that, we'll talk about specific buckets of priority that we want to bring to the community as potential options. So Claudia, do you want to start with the toothpick survey?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Sarah. So I reached out as a follow-up to the conversation that Marguerite, or presentation when she came to us last year, and we spoke maybe 6 weeks or so ago, and essentially they, for various reasons, including the cost of doing a broad survey and also, like, as you said, Sarah, sort of oversaturation, they did what she called a toothpick survey, which was really kind of a multiple choice poll that they did. They set up a table at a county fair or county festival, so not unlike some of the community opportunities you just mentioned. And within their commission, the Arlington County Commission, they first identified, kind of had in-depth discussion amongst themselves and to identify 5 issues. And then the toothpick survey would narrow the kind of, or like give kind of priority order. The 5 issues that the commission members selected were reproductive rights, child care, economic empowerment and pay equity, sexual assault and harassment, LGBTQ, and gender nonconforming equity. Those were the 5 issues. And then I'm just referring to my notes because it was a tiny bit confusing. They, on their table at this event, they had 5 clear bowls, each of which was marked with one of these issues. So each bowl corresponded to one of the issues. And people would come visit the table. They had, you know, like Yvonne was saying, sort of flyers about the commission and their purpose and their goals. And they had some other things, but basically a person would take a toothpick and put it into the bowl, which they felt was the priority issue of those 5. And she said they used clear bowls because then anybody walking by could see which one was full or more or less full compared to the others. And she said it also created great opportunities for discussion with people as they came by and asked, like, what are you doing and what's this all about? And, you know, what can't I put in more than one toothpick because these are all important and so on. In the end, they had 902 people participate, which I thought was pretty amazing. And she shared, you know, it was sort of the rank order of how they, reproductive rights was by far the most, about a third of the toothpicks. I asked if they did a paper survey as well or had any kind of paper thing for people to fill out. She said they did have that, that asked people to identify areas which they would like more information on or to provide their contact information. Only 20 people fill that out. So as compared to over 900 who did the toothpick survey. And basically they just had commissioners take shifts at the tables. I asked about if they had any sort of giveaways or little trinkets. She said they did have like little stickers and things on the table, and they have no budget. Sounds familiar. But somebody had just had them made and printed, had the stickers there, and somebody donated those. And yeah, I think that was about it. So that's the gist of it.
Thanks, Claudia. And I just wanted to add that we had like a discussion during our research committee meeting about like sampling, because Melody and I are the researchers, and it's not like the most ideal sampling situation, but I think the efforts to be at a variety of public events in the community sort of tries to get a swath of the general population in Norwalk. But then we were hoping, or we wanted to have a discussion, if people disagreed or agreed, about whether or not it would be okay to have the table survey be only for female identifying individuals and Norwalk residents. So have some sort of sign and have like a spiel that whoever's at the table can engage in with the people that come up, that our mission is for women, girls, and other marginalized gender identities, and that's who we want to be participating in the survey, because otherwise it isn't actually the priorities of those that we're trying to represent. So, if anyone has thoughts on that, we could have that discussion.
Can I suggest a place that might be good to set up? The FCC Farmers Market in the summer.
At the Norwalk Community Health Center?
No, at the church on the green.
Oh, okay, the one on Saturdays, because I
Okay.
think there's also one on Wednesdays at the community health.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
the one on Saturdays gets a lot of traffic, and like NARJ set up a table last year just for information purposes, and it was a lot of folks stopped by. And I feel like
And
a lot of
is that
Norwalk
something-
residents.
Is that something that I can, we can connect about who to talk to about tabling, if that's what we're saying?
I can put you in touch with the program director at FCC. I on a whim, we should be able, the church should be able to provide like tables and chairs if you let them know that we need those.
Okay, thank you.
Sarah, Christina here. I like the idea of making sure that we're getting feedback from those who are most directly impacted by our mission. Would we be setting ourselves up though for a situation if someone of our turning someone away because of how they appear versus how they identify? Or would we want to be of the mindset where we have the sign saying, this is who we'd want to do it? Because what I wouldn't want us to do is get into a situation where we're confronting and saying and challenging someone. I just don't know if, that's the message that we would want to deliver either. But I do think that making sure that we are trying to gather the input and feedback from those that we most directly impact is critically important.
Yeah.
I just think that would be an important scenario to plan for and
Yeah.
make sure that everyone is comfortable responding appropriately.
Yes.
Can I offer an idea? Oh, do you want to go first, Sharon?
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think it's great. The whole idea is great. And I think it'll be really beneficial. I think it's important to figure out how to gather the input of people who aren't women as well, or who don't identify as women, because it's more inclusive. But I wonder, to Christina's point, if there could be like a toothpick that's another color, for example, so that you're able to gather the correct data about who's being impacted by the people who submitted those toothpicks, whereas someone who identifies as a man has, a red toothpick or something.
Right. I like that idea, because all I can think of is fathers who are very passionate about making sure their daughters have the rights that they feel very strongly about. So we wouldn't want his opinion, but we would, because you know what I mean? So I think that's actually a really good idea, I will just say that higher education does tend to always try to make sure that they do the right thing when it comes to a variety of DEI issues. I think the color the color of the toothpick will have to be very consciously chosen. I literally was a part of a DEI exercise where there was a green card given to participants that then ostracized and made some of our participants feel very uncomfortable. So I just think it's really, rightfully so, I think it's really important that we just be mindful with how we do that. So just food for thought from an experience that I had with a very best of intentions group.
Karen, did you want to add?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. So I'm not that familiar with toothpick surveys, so to speak. I'm just trying to think holistically and long-term. Is this a digital survey or is it's all like paper, right? So my thought process in this is that if we're trying to grow the Women's Commission year after year and continue to get the data that we need, is it possible to make it electronic and capture email addresses so that we're not going back to the table every year, every 2 years? I just want to throw that out there.
Well, I think we can collect email addresses, but I guess, can you just clarify what we would want to use the email addresses for?
I'm just thinking if we're trying to capture data, build a database, so to speak, a community that we can reach out to year after year in the future. I mean, I guess it can be like, I'm just thinking digital, but yeah, it can be handwritten, but
Yeah.
then if it's digital, then you have a link and maybe you can access the youth, or you can pass it around and you can ask, you know, you can ask questions that can identify people as well. And you have this data. I know it's
Yeah, I mean, we can, I'm trying to think. We were avoiding the online aspect of it because of cost potentially. But I see a way we could have, like, you know, a form where you can fill out your email, which is separate from, like, if you put your toothpick in there and then you put your email if you want to keep in touch with the commission. I don't know if other commissions do that in Norwalk, but we could also have like a QR code that leads to like a Google form. It's like, if you want to keep in contact with us, just put your name in, and then we can continue to use that outside of these events.
that would be great. And then when we need data down the road, we have a group of individuals that we can continue to reach out to and build that database.
Yes. I mean, in any case, whatever the results of the toothpick survey is, like, we'll document it. So then if we do another toothpick survey, you know, we see the changes or whatever.
Right.
Any
I would-
other, oh, go ahead.
I would just add I think that's a smart idea for having a separate sign up sheet for just like do you want to stay in tune with the commission? Because I've heard you guys propose ideas that have to do with outreach events, whereas you would invite people to them, even though there's none planned at this moment. You guys have proposed events like that, and it might be good just to have and to start to build for when you do have those events.
Yeah, and if I can add to that, I used to be on the Arts Commission 100 years ago, and we did have a database. We had a group. We even had a Facebook page.
Oh, cool. Okay. This is sounding a little bit like the outreach committee though. So not that I don't want to do it. I'm just saying because it's slightly different than the research, right? So we could think about it because basically half of the outreach committee is on the research committee. Figure it out. But I really like the idea of having another color toothpick or object, so we can think through the most neutral way or attempt to think through the most neutral way. As Claudia mentioned, we don't, like, the Arlington group had 5 categories that they had for their bowls. And in the past, we shared some of the categories of potential priorities that we might ask people about, but we don't want to have too many. So I think and Michelle, maybe you or other people who have had committee experience, is it easier to send an email with the suggested categories and have a back and forth, or should we have a discussion?
I honestly think, and people can feel free to weigh in, I think your committee should do a poll where you create, you know, for second, third, fourth, fifth, and
Okay.
get there, and then maybe open it up to the full commission to do the same thing.
Okay.
To prioritize, because yeah, I think that's going to be the toughest part of it, I think, for planning purposes, right? But I think monkeys, I want to say Monkey Survey has a
Survey
free,
Monkey, yeah.
thank you, Survey Monkey has a free system where you can just easily move the items and put it in
Yeah.
priority order.
Okay, I also have Qualtrics, so I can use that.
Yeah. Michelle, I'm sorry, Sarah, Michelle, didn't at the working session we had, didn't we brainstorm a variety of priorities? That's where our committees came out of. I feel like maybe there's something that we already did. Is that, or am I thinking of a different committee in a different organization?
I don't
That
think,
might help the research committee get started.
yeah, Claudia's nodding her head. I'll let you go, Claudia, next, but from my memory, I think we went through different priorities in general that the commission could work on, but not particularly for ordering priorities on a
Correct.
survey, right?
Correct.
But
Yeah.
that's just how I understood it.
Yes,
Yeah.
oh, that's what I mean, exactly. But that might be a starting point to give to the research committee if they, to add and delete from, and just to, just brain power that's already been invested. Just a thought, just a
A
thought.
few ideas, sure, yeah, good idea.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing you said, Michelle. We did, and that would all be captured in the notes, although the notes from the special meeting are not super robust, but it was more about brainstorming like types of activities we wanted, or types of things we want to do, or actions, I would say, as opposed to issue topics, which is, I think, what the research, the survey would focus on, sort of what are the issues that are the priority issues in Norwalk. The other thing I was going to say, Sarah, to your point about, the kind of, the line between research and outreach. I mean, there is a fine line, right? But I think if we capture people's contact information, then that information could be shared with the community outreach committee, right? And if we do plan events, like you were saying, Michelle, we can use the great, sort of database of people to start with or to reach out to for future events and things. And the other thing is, I mean, toothpicks, that's what Arlington used. We can use something else completely. We could use buttons or pebbles or whatever, right? And, how we differentiate them for different respondents. I think, Christine, I really appreciate your point. I think it's really valuable to think about that. And the other thought in terms of capturing contact information would be, if we have among us, like, tablets or iPads, and have people just do it, like, or have a Google form and just have people do it right there, as opposed to on paper. That would be another way to capture that information too.
The QR code is good for that because they can
Yeah.
see their own phone and do it really quickly.
Yeah, that's a great idea too.
Creating something physical right now, like a toothpick or a pebble or whatever it is, will make it easy and fast, and people will be more willing to collaborate. In my experience running surveys, people are really not into answering surveys. It's really hard to get them. And so if we make them very developed, at one point we want to get there. I think if we start simple, we will get more responses than if we start with surveys that are electronic, and then people, will open and never answer, and so on.
Yeah, that's kind of the discussion we had within our committee, where we went back and forth, and we just wanted to get something started. But at least having like somewhere where people can sign up for a newsletter, I think would be helpful, because then it gives us opportunities for doing electronic things in the future. And you might ask where we will get, or how we will get these toothpicks or buttons or pebbles. So Yvonne has helped us put together a proposal to the city with Michelle's going to review it, but Michelle, you tell us which one's easier, if you want to review it first and then we send it to the committee, or we send it to the committee and then we send it to you. And then Yvonne can talk through it. You're muted.
Thank you. I think because you already sent it to me today, I think just give me a day or two just to get some more feedback on it. And I think I'll get you that feedback and you can get it to the rest of the commission.
Great.
That works. Thanks. And thanks for sending it.
Thank you for your patience. Yes, we want to ask for money. It really what it is that some of the events we want to attend have a fee for us to have a table there. So we would like to see if there is a possibility of getting the payment for the fee or getting permission to attend some of the events that are town events and managed by the town as well. And also to get a bit of help with the materials that we need to produce flyers and to buy, what we need to buy for it. It's a modest amount. We are not asking for much, but I think in the future, and I don't know how this process works, it speaks to the importance of our commission having a budget that we can use. Because in the future, if we want to do surveys that are electronic or paper, whatever it is, the funds are going to be needed.
Just two follow-up questions. One, Ashley, do you know if the farmers table has a fee? And then my other question, well, I'll just start there.
I know that we have vendors who come to sell things that we have a fee for. I don't think that the church would charge for a table for this, but I don't know for sure. So I can follow up with Erica.
Okay, thanks. And my other, it was just a comment that I had. I know that the city wants to definitely give funds for this, so I know that that's a yes. I don't know how much it is, but I just want to circle back to an idea that Margaret proposed that Claudia talked about, which was having an annual event or anything similar that where the commission could raise money. I know Claudia was talking about the Vision for Women event where potentially it was just an idea, but you honor one woman and have a big event and charge people a small amount of funds, but it might also be worth thinking about how to raise a small amount of funds too, in addition to the requests for the budget.
Great, thank you. And I have two questions. Does anyone have a contact for the Sono Arts Festival? Because I emailed the organizers, and I haven't heard back because the vendor application is specifically for artists. So it's unclear if there's other opportunities. And I think Ashley, your group might have done it.
NARJ set up a table at the Arts Fest last year. So there's definitely a fee for Arts Fest.
Right. I just don't know how to contact.
I don't know. I wasn't a part of that, but
I'm sure that we can help also.
Okay, so Michelle, is that something that you and I can connect about?
Yeah, let's do that. I'm sure Irene can.
Perfect. And then if anyone knows of any Juneteenth events, I have like a recollection of potentially one at Ryan Park last year, but I don't know if I dreamt that.
The city does one.
I think there was on the green last year.
So Michelle,
Yes, that's right. Slow memories coming back, but yep, that's right. So I think that's something LaToya might be working on. So
oh, cool.
I think that might have been the first event, right? Or second Juneteenth.
It might be the second because I feel like the first was at Ryan Park, but again,
I remember there an event. Yeah, we can check it out. But yes, now memories are coming back. There was definitely an event last year.
So far we have Sono Arts Fest, Pride in the Park. Pride in the Park is we know the process, we know the costs. That's June 10th.
Pride in the Park brings in a lot of outside Norwalk too.
Yeah, I mean, so we'll have to be
all over the place.
Norwalk, yeah. The Oyster Fest, although that's a little cost prohibitive, but at least we'll get people. The Norwalk Beach concerts, Juneteenth, and then the police department one. So if anyone has any other ideas, we're kind of thinking like we'll focus on this for the summer and see what we can get, so then it can inform what we start doing in the fall and winter.
There may be some events at Norwalk Community College. Again, I think with many of these events, there's always going to be the chance of audience members or participants outside of Norwalk. So just to think that piece through. But I do know, Norwalk is actually the second largest provider of students to NCC. Stanford in the past had been the first. I'm not sure if that's still the same. Very interesting, right? But I do think that there are some community events that are held at NCC that might be viable opportunities as well. So I
Perfect.
can get that information for you.
Yeah, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
I would just add the NICE Festival.
Yeah, we explored, but are unable to get funding for that one.
So one question, Sarah, that I have is sort of, so that's an amazing list. And I think we'll also get like a really diverse, groups of different people at each of those events, right? Which will be great. And we can kind of have an aggregate at the end of the summer season or the festival season, which is great. Once we have, or the research committee has kind of nailed down on once, we know if we have funding and which ones we're going to do, it would be great to sort of create a calendar, which you probably, I see you nodding, probably already have it, but
For
and then-
signups.
Yes, exactly. So that we can all, we can and plan ahead. Like I know everybody will have their summer vacation plans, but to get, kind of as several of us at every tabling event or take turns during the day or, whatever the time frames are. And
Actually,
maybe,
Claudia, I'm
yes,
glad you brought that up because I'm actually now wondering, Michelle, if you know what the turnaround is for the funding proposal, since it all sort of depends on that.
I will try and find out as soon as I can, but I think if you could give me until the end of the week to have concrete answers, that would be
Okay.
good. We might have a few follow-up questions too, but I think we could definitely get some good concrete responses by the end of the week at the latest.
Okay.
because the first one is June, right? The Pride in the Park would be the first event, June 10th. So we have at least our May and June meetings before that. Or when is our June? Oh no, our June meeting is June 12th. So we have our May meeting before that as a commission. But yeah, it'd be great to, and then Juneteenth is like immediately thereafter. And yeah, and maybe, if we do get like to the farmer's market at the church, maybe it's not every Saturday, but like, a couple of times during the summer or something like that. So
Exactly.
Yeah, farmers market, I don't think starts until after the 4th of July. So
oh, okay.
it's either the last weekend of June or right around or right after the 4th.
Okay.
And I'll draft up an email to Erica just to find out if there's a cost for that.
Great.
Thank you, Claudia, for reminding me that. And I think that's it for the research committee for today.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Thank you all so much. That's super exciting. All right. So our last committee update is from the diversification of boards and commissions.
Yep. Hey, so I'm just going to jump in real quick. We are going to put together our top 3 priorities, and we're going to continue to chip away what's in that presentation because that makes the most sense to us. But one of the things I did want to clarify, we can clarify after the meeting, is when we originally were working with Latoya Fernandez, who's the chief of diversity for Norwalk, we talked about a city 101. And I know the engagement committee is also working on the event through Norwalk Acts, but that's not the city itself. And so I don't know, maybe we can talk offline about, our vision to institutionalize division board, institutionalize the work that we're doing and trying to get it into the DNA of the city. And so I think it would be really important to have the city run an event yearly on this. And so we could talk about whether we just do the handoff to the engagement committee, or if you want us to at least try to get a date for that specific event that they were talking about. So, yeah, sorry.
Do you want me to let you finish before I ask a question?
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Ask the question.
Can you just shed light on what kind of event you're talking about that the city would run, just so I understand it better?
Yeah, so originally Alicia King had mentioned doing a City 101, which is very similar to what Yvonne's saying. I think she heard that from all the different conversations and presentations, but it was about trying to get more women and marginalized genders into city government on boards and commissions, And that was what Latoya had talked about.
Right.
And so I think once a year would be great. That was kind of what she had talked about, but
Thanks for the reminder. Gotcha.
yeah, sure. And so just let me know, Michelle, how you want to move forward with that after this meeting. Because we can hand it over to the engagement committee, or we can specifically continue to work with Latoya, because I don't want two of us or two groups. I'd like us to be kind of unified on it.
Yeah, I know you've been following up, and that Latoya is working on some updates, but I think directly asking her about that specific project would be helpful too. And I can also ask Leisha and Latoya about it, but I think honing in on that specific item would be helpful to bring to their attention.
Okay, and if we feel like it sort of it's more legs, we will talk to the engagement committee about how to get more people in, and we'll give updates on that. The second thing we were thinking about doing is reviewing the application process and sending an email over to Leisha King about ways to improve the transparency with it. It's like 95% there, but there are just a couple of things that the general public needs to be made more aware of. And we'll talk about that later. The third thing that we wanted to do is to talk to you, Michelle, at some point about how do we get the word out about all the work the city's been doing on this great new website and the application process. And so that's one of our priorities as well. And then, can I share my screen?
You should be able to. Yep.
Okay. So moving forward, we are going to, at each of our meetings, oh geez, did I lose it? Let's see. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Is it the website that you're seeing or no?
Now it's the website.
Okay. So one of the things we want to do at each of the meetings is announce a new board and commission opening. So and what the priorities are. So I just wanted to walk everybody through sort of the boards and commissions page. All you have to type in is, and this is for the public too, is boards and commissions Norwalk, right? It's literally pops right up. You go into it. Gotta move got all these people here. It has all the boards listed, and this is all new. They've just revised this, redone it. It's really great. On the top right, you click on vacancies. Does everyone see that here? Okay.
Yep.
And then it has all of these really great updates on what boards and commissions are open. So today we wanted to just really quickly just run through planning and zoning. It's a power commission. Before I click on the link, I wanted to talk about click here to apply for a vacant position. This is brand new, really exciting. It has a QR code. This is what we were talking about, sending information over to the city about, like, just how to make this process a little more transparent. So if I click on planning and zoning, I go into here, it talks about, the top of it has what the planning and zoning commission does. Basically what they do is they plan and coordinate the physical, social, and economic development of the city, and they regulate the use of the land within the city. There are 2 spots open. As it had said on the last one, you can see here vacant. Okay. What else did I want to talk about? So what the city is looking for with all of the boards and commissions is someone with necessary expertise, someone who has interest or experience. And this particular commission meets twice a month. And so what I wanted to say to the commission is, if you have anybody in mind, to please have them apply. But it's also equally important that we know about it so that we can get a common council member to advocate for that person applying, or that we can have somebody from the Women's Commission advocate for that person as well. So if you know someone is a good fit, please let us know. That was all I had for our group.
Thanks, Sharon. So 2 things. One is that going back to your first point about the City 101, I was thinking the same thing when Yvonne was giving the report from the Community Outreach Committee, that we should sort of just make sure we're aligned, and maybe it's one of, kind of merging the community engagement event with a City 101, or somehow combining those things in some way. So, and as you say, Leisha and Latoya both talked about that when they've met with us. So I think once Michelle, yes, if you can figure out what they're thinking, and maybe we just have a kind of combined joint committee meeting with Alicia and LaToya or whatever makes sense to kind of figure out and think out loud. And also, like Yvonne, once you get a bit more detail from Jennifer, we can feed that in and then think about what is the right event for us and who are the best partners to really kind of have the impact that we want to have. So, but I think having one instead of two definitely is a better idea. And then thank you for sharing your screen. I was actually just on that page today and it is really impressive. And the only thing I would note is that our commission does not come up as having a vacancy because it still has Anna listed as one of our commissioners. So we do have a vacancy and we just need to, Michelle, maybe you could share that info with whomever manages the website.
Definitely. Thanks for that.
Yeah, and then also just to remind us all that because we have a vacancy, to give thought to people you may know who would be a great fit for this commission, thinking about how we might want the various dimensions of a diversity and how we would like to build that out across to reflect our community. Okay, anything else from anyone? Comments, thoughts, reflections?
I just want to give everyone a shout out for all their great work. So many great ideas and projects moving along. So I know that, it was a slow start, but you guys are really moving and shaking. So thanks for everyone's hard work.
Thanks, Michelle. And thank you for everything you do to help us keep moving. Yeah, getting all of the information out. I think our last item is just about May 8th meeting, discussions about inviting anyone to speak. Michelle, did you have anything specific on that?
No, I just wanted to throw out the idea. And people can still email about it, but go ahead, Sharon.
I would love to have Lucy Dathan on.
Anything specific you'd want her to talk about?
Yeah, so she runs a bipartisan group. And it's all basically legislation that our group would be interested in. I think she'd just be really great for this group. She really aligns well with the work that we do.
You can definitely email her. Thanks for the suggestion.
And then I guess the Lieutenant Governor is still sort of just knows that we'd love to have her whenever she's available. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm hoping in addition to her coming at some point, she can propose, an event or an idea. So yeah, we'll keep asking her.
Okay. Sounds good. Any other thoughts on that? Okay. All right. Is there any other business? No. All right. Oh, yeah.
Just being new, first of all, thank you. This is really great. I would love to help out with the community outreach and civic engagement committee.
Excellent.
Help be a liaison between NARJ and so on. So
that's great. Thank you, Ashley. As I said before, it's comprised of Yvonne, Jasmine, Melody, and myself. It would be great. We have not been able to land on a regular meeting time, but I think I'll try that again. Just even if people can't come, just to know that on the fourth Friday of the month at 10 o'clock or whatever it is. So maybe I'll do a doodle poll or something and I don't know, try to figure out, see what works. But thank you. That would be great. Good. All right. So I think may I ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll move a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay. Thanks, Yvonne. And a second?
Seconded, Christina.
Thanks, Christina. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. I think that was unanimous. So it's 8:22 and thank you all for your energy and attention, and the meeting will adjourn now. Thanks so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Claudia.
Cool.